Hi everyone, I'm Lori from Lori Frank Mediation and Consulting, and today I have with me Jane Johnston. Jane is an award-winning realtor from the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun, and we're chatting with Jane today about some of the things that people who are separating need to think about in terms of real estate and in terms of the family home. This is often one of the biggest decisions that people make in their separation mediation because it is so tied into the rest of their finances and tied into what their parenting schedule will look like and everything. So it really a lot hinges on what they're going to do with the family home. So Jane, for a couple who are separating, what are some of the things they need to start thinking about if they've decided to sell their home?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, unfortunately, it is a big source of income for realtors, the division of the family home. So it's not unusual. You're not going through anything that nobody else hasn't. So we are used to dealing with two parties who are doing this. Usually when somebody comes in, usually what happens is somebody comes to me, they're stressed out, and they want to talk to a realtor, just find out how much their house is worth. And so the reason is why. The second thing you need to understand or think about is how it's going to affect the kids and where they're going to live.
Sure, yeah.
They should be at the center of all the decisions. So whether or not one or the other spouse is going to keep the family home. So if that's the case, what you're going to do is get market analysis done and determine the valuation of the home based on recent sales in the area that are similar, similar square footage and finishing, similar lot size, and then just looking at the trend of homes in the market. And when that decision made is often when the decision to buy out is made, the timing is crucial because you have to look at how the market is at that time. And usually what happens is one spouse will get the financing approved and buy the other spouse out. So that's recorded as a transfer of on the title. The other thing is that you're selling the house and then both parties are then finding their own homes. That's a little more complicated, but it is doable. So what we do is that's because one or both parties can't afford to buy the home from the other.
Yeah, not an uncommon situation.
Yeah. So in that case, what we do is we put the house up, we do a market analysis, same thing, and then the market will determine the sale price and the division of the monies, and we come up with a plan based on where we think the list price is as well as the selling price, and then we also put both parties in a search for current homes. For the remainders of the money and get them approved. So it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, but the main thing is when you're listing the home for sale, the family home for sale, you want a long closing date, so we can find
so you've got that time.
Yeah, yeah. And so often, like if they're moving into a different accommodation, either a different area, or we look for amenities that work for the whole family. So things like access to recreation centers and after-school programs and daycare, and it's kind of like a whole big picture. So we're not just looking at the house, we're looking at the family dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's huge for families because it's a big transition for the kids. They may be moving schools potentially or accessing different resources that they're not used to. So they want to make sure that wherever they end up, they are ones that are going to work for them. So tell me a little more about market analysis because this comes up a lot. People disagree about what they feel the value of their home is. What is the difference sort of between what you do as a realtor when you're determining the value of the home as opposed to, we hear also about the analysis that a bank may require. Are they different? Are they the same?
So there's actually three types of market analysis or valuations of homes. So the first one is your property tax assessment that you get in every year.
Right.
And people often mistake that for the value of their home. What that does is it reflects where the market was 50% higher or lower the year before, July the year before.
Right.
And it's averaged between May and September. So that's quite a long time. So
Yeah.
that's not a good way to value your home,
Yeah.
but people look at it as a guideline. And whenever I do a market evaluation, I do look at that just so I have an idea of what the seller might have in their mind.
Right. Yeah.
So I know where they're coming from. The second one is an appraiser. So an appraiser looks usually at 3 to 6 homes in the area. They reference 3 in their appraisal, and what they do, I think I'd like and often what I do is I analyze it after it's been done by an appraiser.
Okay. Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll know stuff about the property because I've seen it or been in negotiations.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so then they'll look at what's sold. So what I do as a realtor that's different than that is I'm looking at what's currently on the market, what's recently sold, and also what's sold over the past year. So I'm looking at the trend of where the market's going.
Right. Right.
So it can be quite different, especially if the market's going up. It can be dependent on the time of year because you're less likely to get what you want if you're listing between November and early January.
Right.
So timing is essential.
Spring is that kind of
The
beginning of
Yeah, all bets are off now. What's normal? But yeah, you're going to have peak. So peak listings typically happen around the end of March and they go through to about July. And then it kind of levels off. And usually there's a little second bump in September, October.
Okay.
But typically, you want to get your house on the market early February so you can beat the pack.
Right. Okay. So families may, if they have decided to sell the family home, in order to get the most they can out of it, because that's usually a big thing because now they're trying to maintain 2 households. So they want as much as they can out of their home. What are some areas of the home that are worth investing in if they're looking at doing some, fixer-upper kind of things before they put the home on the market?
So I get asked this question a lot as well, just from everybody. But the main thing is you really want to have really good street appeal because people are going to do a drive-by
Yeah.
before they even see the house.
Yeah.
And often now people are looking in to see your house virtually through virtual tours or photos
Right. Yeah.
before they get in. So you want to work with a stager. Usually I pay for the staging consultation. And what they will do is go through your house and look at it holistically from beginning to end. They'll take all your pictures and group them together. Like if you have flower pictures, they'll all be put in the same room. They'll tell you to take down personal items. Probably the best bang for your buck if you want to do a little bit of upgrades is painting.
Right.
So, they'll probably be able to tell you what color to paint some of the rooms. I would recommend not a whole rainbow. People really are affected. I realize that now. Even I'm affected by continuity in a home. So if you go in a home where it's every different color of the rainbow, it's disconcerting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then I would definitely, if you have more money, kitchens and baths, people
Right.
love that.
An update there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you want to kind of make it you want to make your bathrooms a place to relax in. And keeps things like the kitchen counters clear so that people get the feeling of space in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jane was actually the realtor when we sold our last home, and just the paint alone made a huge difference. We had a little bit of that rainbow thing going on. We had, I think, 3 colors in our house. And it made a world of difference. It just freshened the whole house up. It did feel like the house was much bigger. The stager gave us the exact color of paint. So even just something like that can be fairly stress-free, quick picker-upper in terms of someone else coming into the home and being able to visualize it as their home.
I think also, part of the reason why I use a stager is it helps people let go.
Yes.
of the
Yeah.
home emotionally.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, people often don't know this, but I'm actually divorced, and I didn't have kids when I got divorced. I have kids now, but it's traumatic even if
It
you
is.
want it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think the process of staging is, think of it as pre-packing and sorting,
Mm-hmm.
so that it's less stressful when you're actually showing your home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts to help you sort of detach from the home. I know for us, because we had chosen colors that that we loved, just that painting made it feel a little bit different. It felt like we were starting to move away from it being our home and the idea it could be someone else's. Yeah.
Actually, the home that I bought with my husband, it was all colors of the rainbow, and all we did, seriously, was retrim the baseboards and paint the inside white. And people are always commenting on how modern it looks, but it's the exact same house.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not like red, green, blue, and yellow,
Yeah. Yeah.
brown.
Yeah. I want to touch a little bit on the importance of having a separation agreement in place. A lot of people don't know that before you can sell the home, you do need to have that separation agreement in place. And the reason for that would be mortgage. The lenders want to see that you've got everything sorted out. And
Well, especially if you're going to be buying your next property, they want to know what your funding is going to be like.
yeah.
And nobody wants you to make a bad decision, so they just want to make sure you're planned and prepared. Often when I meet with people and they say they want to sell, we look at their financial picture and just see if they can actually afford to buy if they sell. Sometimes it makes more sense to stay where they are.
Yeah.
But again, you'll need the financial support, because if you're taking one person off the title, the remaining person has to qualify to purchase it.
Right.
So
yeah.
the separation agreement spells out where all the money's going. And
Yeah. So the lender can see that, yes, this is going to work and we're going to be able to fund this.
Yeah.
Okay. I just have one more question, and it's, really a question for anyone, but any situation that a buyer or seller may be in. But what are some things they need to consider when they are trying to choose a realtor?
A realtor, I think you need somebody who's going to listen to you and be empathetic, not sympathetic, but like really understand what you're going through. You don't need somebody who feels sorry for you. You need somebody to facilitate you.
Yes.
You have to understand that when you're making your decision, you're making it under stress. And you need somebody who, especially a listing agent, who is calm under duress
Yeah.
and doesn't get all freaked out. I think also you need somebody with experience in negotiating. So there's courses like Certified Negotiation Expert and stuff like that, which are instructive to realtors in how to reach deals in the least possible confrontational way. I think you have to look at their list to sale ratio. So when they're listing, what percentage of their listings actually sell.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at what their list to sale numbers are. So if they're listing here, are they getting up there
Are
as
they
well?
getting the number they're looking for? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think you also have to look at like what their marketing plan is, because I just recently did a market analysis for a seller, and she said that she had 3 top realtors, and I know the other 2, and we had very, very different plans.
Right.
So what is the plan for reaching the demographic who's going to buy your house? So I like when I got into real estate, I focused on parents with kids because that was me, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good market for me. But for maybe, some realtors who are older, they might not identify with that.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It honestly depends. And also, I think now, especially with modern technology, 99% of people are looking for coverage on the internet,
Yes.
not just realtor.ca.
Yeah.
And when people say to you, we bring in international buyers, everyone's going to realtor.ca first.
Right.
So we're all reaching the international buyers.
Yeah.
But how is that realtor utilizing their networks with other realtors? It's different. In any other business, you're going to get a variety of approaches and professionalism. Um, Personally, I think I actually really like a lot of realtors in Victoria.
Yeah, I've met quite a few really nice realtors here in Victoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you,
Lawyers with realtors, realtors with integrity.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's important too. Is you have to work with somebody you like, because
Absolutely.
yeah, you don't want to work with somebody who doesn't respect you or you don't respect them. It's all
Yeah.
about trust. Actually, in the end, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
You have to trust them.
I would agree. Yeah. And I think you really hit the nail there in terms of a realtor who's going to help bring a calmness to a stressful situation. A couple is separating for a reason, right? And so there may be conflict and so on throughout the process. And you want someone who is going to be okay with that and can help to ground you and bring you back to focusing on your goals. What are your
Moving forward.
goals moving forward? What are your goals for your kids? So really looking for that kind of personality that fits that helps to bring a calming presence to the whole situation.
Actually, I had a funny situation where I had two sellers, they were selling one home, but two sellers. And they took a long time to come to a decision to separate and then finally sell their home. And it was very interesting because although they were combative, when it came down to negotiations, they were actually very similar.
Ah, interesting.
The one I thought that was going to be the hardest, because I think they just had trouble letting go of each other.
Yes.
That in the end, it was actually the easiest negotiation. So,
Interesting.
do you want to know how we deal with it?
Yeah, sure.
So often, what happens is when people are separating and selling their house is sometimes they're not talking anymore. So we do things like group emails and group texts because we have to document everything that's going on. And just having them understand that, the conversation with you as one seller compared to your husband is going to be different based on your needs. And I'm going to keep trying to move you forward. But everything I say to you is confidential. Everything I say to that person is confidential. So there has to be integrity in that regard as well.
For sure.
You know, because you may be wanting to buy something and you may not want your spouse to know. And same thing on both sides. So we have a duty of confidentiality with all of our clients.
That is very important to know. You don't want your realtor to be contributing to conflict or escalating conflict that already exists.
Yeah.
And so the confidentiality piece and the piece around the fact that you're going to deal with each person a little bit differently based on who they are and what they need and what their goals are. So I think that's a really important piece to all of it.
Yeah. And it's not a happy situation, but it can end up well, especially if you consider your kids' needs.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I really focus on in mediation is helping the parents to identify what are their children's needs, what are their goals for their kids, what do they want their situation to look like a year from now or 5 years from now, so that they can start to focus on moving forward and making the decisions now that will help move them there.
Yeah. And she's awesome, by the way. It's my testimonial for her.
Thanks, Jane.
No, you really are. I think you're really, you're calm and thoughtful. So I think that would be a real help to anybody. They just need you're somebody, I think you often have common sense advice. And I think that's what people need in times of stress.
For sure. Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, like I said, I'm Lori Frank from Lori Frank Mediation and Consulting. This has been Jane Johnston, local realtor with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to get a dance party going in the background down here. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Jane. It's been great to talk to you, and I think that's really valuable information you've given people today.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Right.
Give me a call.
Oh, and I will link to Jane's website so that you can get in touch with her.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.